of Mrs. Mary Ellen Danek. It is January 2nd, 1990, and we are ready to begin. Okay. What do you remember about dancing when you were growing up?
I remember practicing 3 nights a week, walking to practice about 5 blocks, and in the winter especially, and we practiced in this lady's home, and she was a musician. She was a talented pianist and also played violin, and she took us to our lessons in turn in Owasso, but we practiced at her house, and she drummed this into us, go over and over it again. And they had a nice hardwood floor, which I really remember. That was excellent to practice on. And lots of nights I walked home wringing wet from practice in the cold. Never gave it a thought, that you could catch cold or anything like that. Is it mostly on I took tap dancing from Lynn Adams of Flint, and she drove to Owasso every Saturday, and the lessons were in the American Legion home, which had an excellent wood surface floor. The group consisted of girls from Owasso, Corunna, and Oakley. Cost of the lesson, now get this, was 25 cents. This would have been, at that time, would have bought you 1 loaf of bread, an ice cream sundae, and 1 package of gum.
Oh.
I know this is hard to realize, but it was a great sacrifice on my mother's part. The money was really hard to come by, but she believed in art and entertainment, music, and she spent countless hours making our costumes out of satin, glitter, all kinds of spangles, which she sewed on by hand. And the costumes were made on a treadle sewing machine. And I'm sure none of you are familiar with it, but if you'll go upstairs in Raymond's store, I think they still do their fixing of their clothes with an old treadle sewing machine. And lots of people said they used it and pumped it with their feet and kept their circulation going well. Each review required a new costume, and it was usually went by a theme of some particular movie or show that was out at the time, like some Broadway show or something that was out. I recall a dress that was what we called a shimmy dress, and it was really a long, tight gown with layers of ruffles on the bottom, and the dress split to the knee. The dance was probably a forerunner of light rock, you might say. We often did soft shoe, tap, and songs like, probably never heard of, Shuffle Off to Buffalo, which was a real neat song at the time. I got rhythms, some Dixieland songs. We had one, we also sang at some time with our dancing, and we had a song called Delightful, Delirious, Delectable, which was such a tongue twister that it was really hard to concentrate on singing and dancing at the same time, but this was one crazy song that I remembered. Okay, the recitals at that time were called reviews, and our group performed on the Capitol Theater stage, and it was exciting. It was, at that time, just had movies, and I think now it is called, I'm not just sure what the theater is called, but it doesn't have movies like it used to anyway. And it had a huge organ in the orchestra pit that provided pre-show music. And I even remembered the man's name that used to play before every movie and prior to our dance routines. In the back of the orchestra pit, down below, were the dressing rooms, and the stage seemed like it was a mile wide as you waited in the wings for your cue. And stage fright resulted in not being able to utter a single word and having a throat of cotton. I don't know if anybody has ever experienced that, but if you stood on the sideline and you knew it was your turn, you would not say a word. Our music arranger was Evelyn Spice, who never missed a beat. We could be totally off time, and her expertise would blend the steps and no one knew the difference. And later on, when I married, my oldest daughter took piano lessons from her. She was just excellent. We didn't have tapes or records at the time, so you had to have a live accompanist. We practiced 2 or 3 times a week, which I have told you about that before. Well, to continue, not about the dancing, but in grade school we had a male teacher. At that time I was attending a 2-room school, and he taught us tumbling. And we became good enough to perform at fairs and theaters and picnics or wherever they wanted us. We had just the thinnest mat possible. We had absolutely no props that anybody bought because nobody had enough money to buy them. We sort of did these things for free. We had 9 girls and 2 boys who started out, and the 2 boys quit. They couldn't take it. They weren't flexible. And so the 9 girls continued. And we did everything that is considered, well, acrobatics now, not realizing really how tough they were. Now, our acts were like back bends and camel walks, headstands on chair that was on a 7-foot ladder, and many other daring backflips considered really difficult to do. We were thin and real supple and had little fear of falling, and positively never thought of insurance for anything like this. And the acrobatics were sort of interspersed with dancing. And all these things sort of remain as a true excitement that I experienced, and we found out that it toned your body, and we had team talent. When we were on stage, each one of us depended on the other to know their part. And our dance instructor was someone we always looked up to. She was tall and long-legged and just the picture of a typical Broadway dancer. And in one of our reviews, she danced with a fellow on stage, and the song was Top Hat, White Tie, and Tails, and I can still see both of them, how real they were. They were just poetry in motion. And at that time, we were all just wide-eyed with envy, hoping to ever be so good. I have enjoyed doing this interview for Julie, as I know what a talented dancer she is, a very talented singer, plus she is my relative, and I'm real proud of her. And I did not pursue dancing after I got into high school very much. This was more in my younger days. And I often wish, as much as I like and much I learned from it, I wish the 25 cents could have been spent on piano lessons, which was my first love. But the taste of entertainment and performance before a live audience is pretty heady stuff when you're a kid.
Okay.
No.
Was dancing important then?
Yes, it was important. It was a medium of entertainment because a lot of people were taking ballroom dancing at the time too. There were quite a few adults who came after us and took ballroom dancing. And there weren't televisions, so people had to entertain themselves other ways. But plus, they liked to go and see people that performed and did things.
Okay. Do you remember like dance marathons going around you?
No, I don't recall dance marathons.
No.
I think my oldest sister probably would remember that. No, I don't recall that.
Okay. Did you do a lot of social dancing? More like, like Charleston dancing and all that, when like going to a place where you dance just to like a band or something?
When I was growing up, yes, we went to a place and we danced every dance, and the jitterbug was becoming really the thing, and we just danced anytime we could get a chance for social dance.
Okay. What dance styles were you interested in besides the jitterbug?
Well, I liked all modern dancing. I especially liked, at one time when I was real young, I saw an ice review of dancers that just seemed to be so beautiful. And I tried to attend things that were like that gave you an idea of just a little bit more of dancing.
Okay. Let's see. What do you think is the biggest difference between dancing of yesterday and dancing of today?
Of yesterday? I think the dancing comes back. The cycles just keep turning around and around, except the speed and the tempo is probably a lot faster than it used to be. But there was some really weird dances then, just like there's some weird dances now. And we didn't look on them as anything, just a typical dance for that time. Most of the shows at that time that would feature tap dancing were all in the same sort of soft shoe type. They weren't really. And then they started dancing faster.
Okay. What types of dancing do you do now? Do you dance a lot now?
I don't do a lot of dancing now. I used to do more dancing. But we just don't attend dances like they used to.
When your children were growing up, do you remember what types of dance they were doing? Like what kind of dance styles they were doing?
Oh, our oldest daughter took tap dancing, and she too went through this typical dance routine that you have where you perform and go to practice and costume the whole bit. But as far as remembering some of the songs, I cannot even remember what they were, to tell the truth. If she were here, I know she could tell.
Okay. Okay, back to when you were younger. You performed at the Capitol Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Where was this at?
In Owasso.
In Owasso?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You said you took tap lessons, and then in school you were in tumbling. Was this at the same time? Did you take these?
The tumbling started out, and then we took tap dancing. We were doing the two kind of at the same time.
Did you perform together with these two dances?
We would work. Sometimes we would work an act, and then sometimes we would dance. There were 3 of us who danced together in one group, and then the 9 of us would perform on the tumbling act. too. And then we would have our review with the whole group that was in our recital. So it was sort of a regular review all put
okay.
together.
Okay.
I was really proud of my mother when I think of it, because she made all our own clothes, but sewing on costumes was a whole different story. And I can see her yet with the many struggles that she had. She did the sewing by hand of the little sequins, whatever they were required on anything. And it was just a whole new ball game for her, and she really did a beautiful job of it.
How many years did you take dance lessons?
We took 4 years of dance lessons. And then our tumbling was just started as sort of a lark in the school. Our teacher, he's still alive, just wanted to know if we were interested in learning how to do some headstands and some different things. And so we did it right on the schoolroom floor and got started that way. And after a while it just became a thing that we thought at the time that we were pretty good. We had absolutely no, like I said before, no good equipment, and our costume, if you could believe this, were just gym suits.
Oh yeah.
And that was the limit as far as the tumbling acts were concerned. I don't remember what we had for shoes, if we had tennis shoes or what we had at that time. We must have had some kind of a soft shoe to work on a floor. But the tap dancing shoes, I do know, haven't changed very much. I had mine for a long time. I think just a couple of years ago I got rid of them, which I shouldn't have done.
Where did you buy them tap shoes at?
I think we could buy them in a Wausau shoe store.
Oh, really?
But then we had to have, just seemed to me we had to have this tap put on, and the tap itself, I don't know if they are like that anymore, they come up over the toe. Ours came up just that little bit over the toe of the shoe. And they were only probably the lower heel, not your high heel.
Yeah.
Just our dance instructor wore high heel, which made her legs look real beautiful. We always aspired to look like that when we grew up.
When you were young, did you ever dream about being using dancing as your career?
I don't think really. As I think of it, it was just something that we got into and we just kept it up. But like I said, that I had a real feel for music and wanted so badly to take piano lessons, and knowing another 25 cents would have been an absolute sacrifice for my mother, and she had to pay that on top of dancing. And I would go to my friend's house who had a piano in her home, took lessons, absolutely adored it. To this day would not sit down to a piano, and I would go to her house and play and think, oh, if I just had that piano. And now I have my own electric organ and I play for my own benefit, but I do wish I'd had lessons.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, thank
Oh God, I'm going to put this down to 2.
you.
I think I was 12 and I sang on a Lansing radio station. If I could just think of the name of the song. But it was so much fun. But it was like a talent program. And you were selected. I don't know how I ever got in. I don't know if I had to. I don't remember auditioning, but it just seemed to me we sent our name in and we were called. And if you were called, you were really lucky out of all the kids that wanted to go sing. And I remember the time that I went, I sat by some kid, some boy that was a grand finalist, and I thought that had to be just the end of the world. But other than that, I don't remember any more about the program, but I did used to sing at different events.
Oh.